So you're ready to house hunt, you get out, you start looking at houses, and you call your real estate agent, right? Wrong. The first thing you should be thinking about doing is getting pre-qualified. And today we're sitting here with Paul Kastrup of Mortgage Masters, where he's going to talk about that. My name is Sean Angel. I'm with the Angel team at RE/MAX, and we are here to help you for all content related to real estate in Southwestern Indiana. Paul, tell us a little bit about the mortgage process. I know it's a really confusing part. In fact, I might add, it's a part that people tend to want to delay on from my perspective. They call me, we do the whole dog and pony dance, they like me. It's easy for me to just get them set up on what their budget is in their mind, right? And start showing them houses. We get to the perfect house, we're ready, and you know how this goes. It is Sunday night, it's 7 o'clock. And your friendly neighborhood realtor, Sean, is calling you needing to get that pre-approval turned around. And I call that a failure many times on me as a real estate agent when that has happened in the past. And I don't try to do that at all anymore because there's a lot to that process, right? And mortgage qualifications. Just take it away. Tell us a little bit.
Well, 7 o'clock, I think that sounds like an early one. I thought it was 10 o'clock, you know. But yeah, a lot of times people do. They are concerned or they're nervous about the process of getting pre-qualified. You know, they feel like it's a lot of information they have to give out, a lot of trust they have to give to somebody. But really, it's a pretty easy process. You know, especially with us at Mortgage Masters. I try to make myself available like you are throughout the week, weekends. You know, because that's when people are off work looking for homes, and you know, when they find the perfect home, they want to be able to make an offer on that house, and it might be, like you said, 7 o'clock at night on a weekend. So one of the things that I look at is the process is not as hard as people think. Mm-hmm. You know, we have a really good process online where you can go online, put your information in, and kind of do it at your own pace. And then once that information is put in, I'm able to talk with you, have a phone call, and really, most people are going to be qualified a lot easier than they think. Mm-hmm. There's so many programs out there that are basically give a variety of ways for people to get for their own situations, for their own income, credit scores, for them to be able to get qualified for a home. Usually, if there's a will, there's a way.
And there's a lot of programs fitting their personal story too. 100%. Down payment, whether there's assistance, types of loans, correct, and all of that comes into play when someone calls a professional first. 100%. Right?
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of times people ask me, they'll try to give me just a small information over the phone, say, I'm this, I'm I have this much money, or I have this credit score here, or what am I qualified for? Mm-hmm. Every situation is different.
Right.
It's one of those things where it's really good to be able to, for us to go back and forth, mm-hmm, be able to talk to them and help them, mm-hmm, get the process, specifically for them. And so that way we know their situation, and they know with confidence when they, mm-hmm, are out shopping with you or looking at an open house, they know, hey, I know what I can afford.
I think that's the biggest thing is the confidence piece. So like when someone calls me and you call me and we want to talk about homes, I can't wait to meet you. I can't wait to get started on your dream. But I respect you so much, and I know the process can be difficult if it's not staged right. So if we don't have the preparatory planning put in up front, we could end up losing the house of your dreams. We could get you in contract, realizing that the hood was not peaked, tilted appropriately underneath the car hood, and you're not approved for the house. And now you've spent appraisal dollars, inspection dollars, maybe liability on breaking that deal.
I mean, there's probably nothing more frustrated in one of the biggest purchases, mm-hmm, and biggest decisions, mm-hmm, of your life is purchasing a home. Right. You're investing in your family, mm-hmm, whatever that entails, to go in and think that this is the perfect house for you. Find out after you've already got your heart set on it that it's not. Right. It's definitely the best way is to find out what you can afford, what is in your budget, what is going to be, the best for you to attain, mm-hmm, and then go look for houses, mm-hmm, in that. And it also helps you as as their realtor, because you're the one that's advising them, yep, and trying to help them find the perfect home to be able to help them into what you know they can afford and
And
what works for them.
I think when people hear it that way, they don't think, oh man, my realtor is just pushing me off and I'm going to be forced to give all this personal information out. They realize this is a partnership. 100%. And I mean, really, I can't do my job effectively until you get over here talking to Paul and getting that pre-qual handled, because you might be in a situation like a lot of my clients in a semi-rural area here in Evansville, where it's like, yeah, it'd be nice to be in an area that I could put some raised bed gardens out and maybe some chickens. And, you know, so I really want an acre and I really need a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, and I really need this. And all of a sudden now, you know, they're thinking 200,000 and you're calculating in your head going, man, that's like 350. Well, some of these homes are USDA eligible. A little further out, we can get that land. Some of them, though, we could be in a subdivision that allows no restrictions, right? And so they could have some quiet little chickens in the backyard and be a smaller yard and still accomplish their goals. So you talking to Paul allows him to give you the craft and say, hey, if you were going to go this type of loan, here's a budget amount. But you would also qualify for this type of loan if you can't get the rural property, a little bit more money down. And you guys can now, without my prying ears, converse on the details with confidence, trust, and fiduciary, you know, on that. And then by the time you come back to me, let's say that process is a few hours to a few days, depending on your docs. We are really intentional now about carving the right search out so as to not waste your time, so as to not miss opportunities, and to have a pleasant experience right off the bat. And I mean, that's to me the less fire drill scenarios you get into in real estate, meaning I gotta go, I gotta get my numbers, it's Sunday night, the better that you don't get into that situation, because you can spend that time in preparatory financing on thinking whether this is the right house for you with intention.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
You know, definitely the fact to be able to shop with confidence, you know, it's going to come across also when you're presenting it to the selling agent, the other side. When you can say, hey, I have a qualification here from a reputable company that people in this area know that we've done our due diligence with that client to make sure that this offer coming in is legit and it's strong and we've done the proper steps. You know, and I'm sure you've had this, if you have a situation where you got 2 offers that are the same and you got a person that's pre-qualified and one that's not, they're going to go with that pre-qualified offer.
Yeah, and sadly, you get into situations that it's somebody out of state, an internet bank type scenario. And I mean, they have great lenders that work there, but they could also have people not so great. Or you could be daisy chained, what I call, passed along a lot. Yes. And so some agents, if they can, as a listing agent, get out of that deal, they will. And so that sways the competitiveness of your offer all the way back to who you were pre-qualified from. Is there a story? Does the agent know the scenario, know the lender? Because like it or not, we're in a relationship business. And if I need to pick up the phone and call you, I can do that.
Well, and other agents in the area know that with us.
Right.
So I've had, you know, I don't want to make this a habit, but I've had agents call me at later than 10 o'clock as a joke. I've had an agent on the other side, the selling side, call me and say, hey, I got your pre-qualification in. You know, how do you feel about these people? Have they given you all the information that you need? Is this good? We like this offer. And I'm able to say yes. You know, in that situation for sure I was. And my clients got that offer there. And it was a Saturday night at almost 11 o'clock at night. And that made the difference to whereas you were saying with an internet bank, not necessarily saying those are bad banks, but you're not going to be able to get a hold of somebody at 11 o'clock at night to be able to get that assurance or get that extra. Or if you have a question, you know, I like to make myself available for someone to be able to text me or call me as far as on the client side or any side. And, you know, we can address issues in just a couple minutes to where you might have to wait. If it's a Friday at 5 o'clock, you might not get an answer until Monday morning. So
now let's say somebody does, they take our advice today. They said, man, that makes sense. I had no clue that the competitiveness of my offer winning, especially in a climate today where houses are sitting a little longer on the market, concessions are back on the table.
Correct.
You know, discounts are back on the table. So who'd have thought that somebody might be, as a listing agent, calling behind the scenes to check the story of that pre-approval letter? And that's what won you your bid, not necessarily you were low price or high price, I mean, but that you actually had the higher confidence. But let's say you get in a scenario where someone does that and you know what, they're not ready to go. Talk to me about your coaching, the way you groom people into pre-approvals at a later date.
So basically, if someone is just starting out the process and they're wanting to, start the pre-qualification and just kind of get an idea of where they're going to be for down the road, it really kind of works the same way, to where I'll work with them to find out what their ideas are and what their goals and their vision for where they see themselves, and we work together to get that. Because sometimes you'll get a situation where someone might not be ready. They might think they're ready to buy now, and they might not be. So we can take a look at that and say, hey, we have tools and through Mortgage Masters and then experience that I can take a look at things and say, hey, if we do X, fix this or pay this off or do whatever tweak, because everybody's situation is different. Then you're going to be in position to be able to do what you want.
And we just had this conversation, somebody, they're pre-qualified now. However, I think you shared with me that the amount was not going to be conducive to what their desires were.
Correct.
So instead of being like, sorry, I can't do the amount you want, I could do this amount, and really pressuring them into a house or shopping it across a bunch of other lenders, having that conversation to say, how do you feel about the 90-day mark for this thing to happen, this promotion that comes through, for this money to be whatever, dumped in.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we're getting them into the right home at the right time. And so many people just want to be dealt with just tell me straight, and this is what I want to do. And if I need to back up the punt, I now have the person that I can talk to about these things that's not going to be just unduly pushing me into just getting the deal done.
Well, I think what you hit on is probably one of the biggest things is whenever people they come into this big decision, they want to feel like they're in control. And a lot of times they don't feel like they're in control. And so whenever, in the situation you were talking about, I like to be able to give them options. I can say, hey, if you want to purchase something today, this is how much you can qualify for. I know that's not what you originally wanted, but if you think you want to look at something in this range, then you can. But if you want to attain this higher, then this is what we need to do over the next few months to get you in that position there. And just to have that confidence of, I am in control. I could make this decision to maybe go for a little lesser house, maybe a bedroom less than I wanted, or less acreage, or whatever it would take, maybe a different area than I was originally looking. I can do that today, so I have that choice. Or I can work to achieve my original goal by doing X, Y, and Z, whatever those steps may be. And I think people appreciate that. Nobody likes to be told no. And so we try not to do, we don't like to deal in no's. We like to deal in yeses down the road, or this is what we need to do to get to yes. And I've had situations to where I had a young lady call me one time and put an application in. And I can't remember if this was a client that you and I had, but I just remember the scenario. And it was about 2 years that it took her to be able to finally get to the point to where she could buy. I gave her a blueprint of, hey, this is what you need to do to fix some issues that she had previously on her credit, a couple different things along those lines. And she listened to what I had suggested and called me up, said, hey, I think I'm ready. And sure enough, it was almost 2 years later that she was able to buy a house. And those type of situations, that there's a positive feeling and a feeling of doing good, because that person has sent many referrals. She'll tell everybody how it was, because someone, didn't just look at her application and say, you can't buy, and then, push the paper
push them off and make them feel like.
And then they're left to wonder, well, what can I do, and not have any direction. So, I think one thing that I know about you and how you do your business, you are in the business to help somebody whenever you can, whether that be today, or if it's 6 months, 2 years from now, when they need the help, that's when you want to help them.
Yeah, in fact, we're having this video conversation on pre-quals, because sometimes I will deliberately pull back and I will tell my clients, hey, I'm not disinterested in you, but you mentioned the budget was $250 based on an online calculator, but what if your budget's really $225 for the payment that you really like? 100%. Now, I go out there, Johnny on the spot, I set you up on a search right now at $275. you start seeing 275 and 250 homes. And by the time you talk to Paul, which could be several months later because I didn't have the guts to have this conversation with you right off the bat, you realize it's 190.
Right.
Well, how deflated are you going to be when you start looking at that category house when we had your appetite whetted on this more expensive house? So I don't want to be there. We want to take care of you. We want to partner with people that want to take care of you. And if that process is 3 months, 6 months, or 2 years, those are the success stories when you're talking about buying the 1, 2, 3 time largest asset of your life. You don't really want to make those mistakes if you can help it.
Well, I'll even expand on that too. It can also go the other way. I've had many a times where I have people that, be sent to me and they'll say, hey, I'm looking at a house in this price range. I'm like, okay. And I start to ask some more questions because, the more questions I ask, the more information I get. The better I am to be able to help the client get what they need. And I find out that the reason that they're saying, hey, I want this price range house is because they only have a certain dollar amount saved up. And I find out there's other programs out there. Like you had mentioned earlier, USDA. There's Indiana Housing Program, which is a down payment assistance program. And be able to find out that they qualify to get maybe some assistance. There's different things like gifts from family. There's a lot of different ways. And they said, well, yeah, I'd much rather buy, I was looking at a $150,000 house, but I got a family of 6.
Yeah.
And we're going to be cramped there, and it was going to be short term. They find out that they can maybe qualify for something that they didn't think about. And now they get into that $250,000, that $300,000 house that they really need for their family.
Yep.
And it's just those type of things there that, by the fact of us working together with the client and them working with us, it's that partnership that we have, all 3 of us, to help find out exactly what they qualify for, what they need, and what's best for them. And not, I'm like you to where, the client is more than just a sale. So we want to make sure that the client is getting what they need and what they want, whether it's waiting a few months, doing something now, whatever that entails, that's what we want to do.
Yeah, and so kind of hitting it, kind of recapping a little this, you're going to have a lot of things hit you when you start Google searching how to start buying a home, and so they're going to say things like call your realtor, get set up on a search. They're going to talk about pre-qual. We're just trying to highlight the importance of it because, my wife, she's also a chef. It's what she thought she wanted to do back in the day before real estate. And one thing a chef never does is comes into a kitchen and starts baking, cooking, whatever, that chemistry experiment unprepared. Right. They've got all their things in order and they have fancy words for that. Well, that's what we're doing. We're getting our ducks in order so that we can have a more effective negotiation on the house that you desire. And that comes down to what people ask me about a lot, which is closing costs. Hey, Sean, what's customary in this area? Sellers are paying closing costs, right? So that's telling me that they may have a cash issue that we need to talk to the lender about, so that way I can learn what their scenario is on how to craft that offer. Because the answer to that is it depends. Are we undercutting the price of the house? How is the price of the house? How is the days on market? What are the rates doing that week, fluctuating up and down? Are there exemptions on the property taxes that are not there because it's an estate home? There's a lot of factors behind the scenes that I need to kind of be able to know the scenarios. So if we need to craft an offer that has $4,000 and seller paid settlement fees, we can do that and understand how we're doing that without overpaying for the house on the right recipe. Right. And I tell you, that brings me also to rates. As a realtor, I'll get questions a lot that are outside my lane. And I'll be honest, hey, Sean, so what are the rates doing now? And can this bank beat this rate over here? And I'm like, well, it depends, because how many times have we gone into the car lot and told them what we had to trade in and what we had down payment and what we want for a payment? Right. And they can figure out how to hit that number, can't they? So talk a little bit, just real quick, on rates so that people don't think that you're being elusive by not being able to answer that on that initial call.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So I do get that a lot. The people will call in and they'll ask, hey, what's today's rate? And one thing that I have to, let them know is, for one, it's not usually that simple to just spout out a number, because there's regulations involved. To give rates out, you're supposed to actually disclose information, APRs, fees, and everything at that time. And another thing I've found over the years that I find out is, usually when people ask, hey, what's today's rate? There's more of a reason behind asking that question. It's not necessarily that they care about an arbitrary number that's going on in the world today. Usually it pertains to something that they figured on their own. They're like, we can afford a house if the rate is at this percent. And they've done their own calculations, maybe online and things like that. So they're asking that to see if they're able to afford something based on some calculations they've done. So a lot of times I'll get into it more and say, what are we trying to attain here? You know, what are you looking at? And I'm going to try to find the best program, because every program has different rates. There's whether you go for a VA loan, an FHA loan, USDA, conventional, down payment assistance programs. Every one of them is going to have a different rate. Also, the rates are going to vary on credit score, on credit file. There's a lot of different factors there. One of the nice things that we have at Mortgage Masters is we have access to many servicers that allows us to be able to find the best rate for the client and not be locked into just a standardized rate. Because usually a standardized rate at a like say a local bank or whatnot, where they advertise a certain number, is usually going to be based off of a large client, portfolio. So where they have to maybe have it a little bit higher to bring in people that might not qualify for the best. And a lot of times, if you can get into a situation like we have, to where we can actually look at your scenario and find the best company servicer for you, it allows us to get you better rates.
Right.
And that will entail give you, cheaper payments and whatnot there. But really it comes into the biggest part of it is to find what you're trying to attain and what's going to be the best for you. And then we're going to find the best rates.
Yep.
That's the one thing nice about the mortgage industry, and one thing that I enjoy, about it here is it's in my best interest to be able to find the client the best rate. If I find you the best rate, you're going to be the most happy. You're going to tell your friends about it. You're going to have a cheaper payment. It's a snowball effect of there's no benefit for me not finding you the best for your situation.
Right.
I mean, and that's, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is doing that. Put you in the best situation possible.
Well, I think as you're watching this, we went a little bit deeper than maybe what you expected. You see so many times the little quick Google queries say, find somebody that you like, that you trust, get your pre-qual, go to town. We wanted to get behind the scenes a little bit on really what that does entail, and it does not need to be a scary event. I mean, it could be as simple as an application link, get it going, and that afternoon you're talking to Paul. He's getting some intake information, and we can throttle up and throttle down. Paul will help find the skeletons in the closet that could come up and maybe haunt you through a transaction, and also share with you what different programs work for you and your individual scenarios. And then at that point, sometimes those get tabled based on that discussion, and we're looking at a later date with accuracy and confidence. Sometimes we get throttled and we're writing that offer and we're staging it to win. That's the biggest thing. You get ready to go and buy a house, get ready to win. And I say win with confidence. So that may mean because your realtor has pulled the comp numbers, the comparative value of that house. He's pulled those numbers, or she, and they found out, don't go above this number because you're talking about a 3-year deal here and we don't want you to overpay. Especially not since we have to ask for closing costs or this. Right. Or, hey, we could go up to this number based on the area comps, and we've worked with the lender and we know there's a little cushion. The property taxes came in a little lower than what we budgeted, and so now that raised your value a little bit, you see. So we know how to bake the cake. We know how to be nimble, we know how to win, but we also know how to pull back and to pull out of the deal so we don't get you in a scenario you regret later on. I think that's the biggest thing I wanted to get across, was just a little more behind the scenes, so that when I try to move people over to talk to you, they don't get mad at me for not just meeting them at a house. I mean, I'll certainly do it, but it's not the wisest decision until we know that we know how to do what you're doing.
I mean, I don't deal on your side of the fence as much, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of places won't even show you a home if you don't have a pre-qualification anymore.
Yeah, we're in a pretty friendly environment around here, but there are certain price points and certain situations where they do want to see that, because a seller may have kids at home. They don't want to be displaced for 2 hours for a neighbor wanting to check out the paint colors. I mean, I hate to say that, but you get stuff like that. So, Paul, I mean, how do people get a hold of you if they want to reach out right now off this call and say, I just need to strike up a conversation and get to know you because I like what you're saying?
Well, they can reach out in multiple two different ways. So we have the mortgage master's office that they can come in, meet me face to face. We have I could give a link, to basically be able to put an online application in. I have a hyperlink that's just my name. It's paulkastrup.com.
Yep.
And they're able to do that, or they can give me a call.
Yep.
I make myself available. I actually use my personal cell phone as my business phone, so that way. You can give me a call at pretty much any time. Send me a text if I don't answer. Leave a message. I'll call you back as soon as I possibly can. And that number is 812-499-7773. And we just try to make it to whatever's easiest for you. I even still have some clients that or maybe it's not as far into the tech side. Like my dad would be one. He's not going to get on a computer. He's not going to put his information in there. So. He might want to do it over the phone. Give me a call, and I'm happy to do that. So I usually try to work with the client in their situations, and whatever's easiest.
Yep.
Sometimes a quick phone call for people's lives or doing it online saves a lot of time. Some people want to come in and spend time sitting in front and just kind of doing what we're doing, back and forth, questions, and just try to obligate or make that whatever really fits their needs.
Right. Well, from this discussion, you kind of know what to do to get prepared. What we'd like you to do is go to our channel and hit like, hit subscribe, and stay in touch with us as far as our new content that we release. We're all about real estate, living in and around Southwestern Indiana. Part of the boring is actually part of the success. So just always remember that, get the process started early, get prepared, and then we can win in big numbers. I'm Sean, this is Paul, and we thank you for watching.
Thank you.